All right, Ian.
Patrick.
We have another, getting heated up from this talk about business. We have another article. This is like the third or fourth in about 4 months about graded games being sold. This was from the New York Times. I really have to think about these journalists that are, I think Washington Post did one. They're getting news about heritage auctions and WADA, I guess. And of course, our buddy Chris Kohler did an article as well, and that was back in the late summer. He did it. This article is called "Collectors Are Spending Thousands on Video Games They Will Never Play." Nice, direct, to the point. Interest in factory, and this is by...
Humorously, though, that's something that I've been saying, for years. It's not just this new wave of collectors. This is always...
Yes, but when it's entombed in plastic, you really can't play it.
Sure.
Never can do it. This is from Jason Bailey. Almost Justin Bailey. That's kind of weird. It's like close to that. Interest in factory sealed video games has soared in the past year, and collectors have been able to quickly flip the most coveted titles, making a substantial profit. There. Yeah, that's the lead. That's the byline here. So, talks about interest in factory sealed video games has soared in the past year, with some companies aggressively targeting collectors from more established markets. The hottest investments are games for the NES, which popularized characters like Link, Mega Man, and Mario's in the 80s. One collector, Donald Brock Jr., who runs the website Columbia Comics, said he has spent about $50,000 buying vintage video games since his first purchase in March. So $50,000 in less than a year. One sealed NES game cost nearly $1,500. He had it graded and then sold it for more than $12,000. We see that all the time. We just saw the Contra sell for a ridiculous amount.
Right.
Sealed Worlds like 2 years ago when it went for 10% of that value. Mm-hmm. We're seeing it now. This article talks about the $1 million sale of a purchase of a dozen games.
It even mentions the Mega Man that sold for $75,000 that we just covered like a week or 2 weeks ago.
So this not Justin Bailey. What's his name?
Josh?
Jason Bailey. I'm going to say Justin.
Sorry.
Jason Bailey. He's on top of this. He's covering this. Collectors say that multiple gold copies of Nintendo World Championships, only 20 are distributed, making it one of the rarest NES games, has reached the six-figure threshold in private sales. Now, this is weird, and this is why this is weird. I got contacted by one of the big collectors, one of the 3 people that owns the 100,000 copy Super Mario Bros., and he said, "Hey, Pat, I heard you sold your gold NWC for $150,000. I said, "That's news to me. I hadn't heard about that." So I don't know if there's always shenanigans going on behind the scenes. Maybe, I'm not going to say someone else maybe told a fib to push their value, their gold NWC up. But it's weird that I would be the first to hear about that rumor from someone I know is interested in a gold one.
Right.
So there's something going on. I didn't put that out there. That's true. I got the email saying, "Hey, Pat, I heard that there." So and then here comes the controversial statement I'll let you take here from Josh Hamlin, the owner of SideQuest Games in Portland, who I know.
And I'm sure he's a great guy, but you almost can't pay too much because stuff is going up so fast. I also know the article probably needed its quote and its soundbite, but man, that's a horrible...
That's a rough soundbite,
That's
Josh.
A rough one, yeah. You definitely can. That's how people get into trouble in markets. That's how markets bottom out. That's how people fucking take a bath.
You can always pay too much.
Yes.
You can easily pay too much for things. This is what happens when a speculative bubble is created. The reason why they can...
As a matter of fact, it's language like that when language like that pops up, that's when I immediately am like, okay, it's getting too far gone.
It's speculative rhetoric to say you can never spend too much money. It's not responsible to say that.
No.
So you have to be careful with that. And so he runs SideQuest Games. He advises comic book collectors seeking to diversify. And we've spoken about this before, and other people have said that comic book prices are magically coming down now on some of these older key issues because they are seeing what to them the untapped video game market and saying, "Oh my God, I can make a fortune on this. I've already made money, with the speculation in the comic books. So now I'm going to diversify and get into this." And it's happening.
Right.
It's happening before our eyes. And this is, again, only the past year.
But also, you have to wonder, because we've talked about this. We talked about it around Comic-Con, about, you always talk about it, I believe, with Amazing Fantasy 15, about how a lot of those copies were kind of just being sold back and forth to people already within. Yes. Once you've already played out your limited market, what happens from there? The prices have to go down if you legitimately want to move them any further.
When you price out the regular collector. I was priced out of the Amazing Fantasy 15 market. It got to a point where even if I had the money, I was not willing to spend $16,000 on a very low grade issue.
Sure.
Maybe if it was $5,000, but not $15,000. Like, everyone has that point where now this is totally ludicrous to me. You might say, well, it's ludicrous to spend $5,000, Pat. Well, to everyone, there's a certain point where it becomes totally ludicrous to do that.
I've been trying to figure out what price point I'll play Grand Theft Auto 5 at lately, and I don't know that there's ever going to be a price point.
What do you mean? It's got to come down to like $1?
Yeah. Like, I was literally when Link and I were playing games last night, I literally, like, it's on sale, I think, on the PlayStation for like $20. I'm like, what price point does it have to be for me to actually play this? Yeah, I mean, everyone's got, for various things, everyone's got their cutoff.
So what's happened is that now the high grade comics are in the hands of investors and speculators. Like you said, there's no one else to sell them to, or no one else to buy into the market. And
right.
So on the video games, it's still cheap enough that a lot of collectors can buy in, and now they're coming from other fields. This is why I like this article. It offers a differing viewpoints. Some longtime collectors are pleased, saying video games are an art form that deserves to be recognized. Video games have been recognized as an art form. To me, there's this weird fucking conflation of recognition with the value of things, which to me is, I just can't wrap my head around that.
Right.
And plus, there are video games worth a lot of money. They're not maybe worth $150,000, but there's video games that are worth a lot of money. The fact that Snatcher is worth like $700 to me shows that there's a value in the art form. Doesn't have to be $100,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand that at all. I don't get it. Other members of this tight-knit community say the higher prices are exaggerated, even if their own collections are now worth far more. And some have raised ethical concerns. Someone said to me, hey, Pat, why are you speaking out about this? It goes against your self-interest because you might have some of these games. I don't believe in it. I can't. I don't want to push people into a market where I don't think they should be throwing money at on top of it.
Right.
I just don't. Sorry, I have ethics when it comes to this. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people don't have ethics when it comes to these things. I do. Market distortion, both legal and illegal, keep that in mind, ethical and unethical, is rampant in the art world, says Richard Lehun, a founding member of Strophius, a New York firm that provides legal services for the arts community. Everyone is essentially trying to game the system. Talks about other things like the price of Action Comics #1, which went up 1,000,000% in like the last 20 years, which is insane. Someone from Heritage Auction says they want to get in the ground floor of this new collectible. It's not a new collectible.
Right.
And this is why...
It's a new market.
It's a new market you've created for a specific state of a collectible. Video game collecting has been around. People were collecting games in the 80s. They were collecting video games.
As long as the games have been around, people have been collecting games. You talk about the person who was your neighbor who would buy all the games brand new.
My grandparents' neighbor, yes.
I mean, that's collecting.
That's collecting. He wasn't playing them. So that was like 87, 88. I would borrow Jeopardy and Paperboy when we went to Ocean City, Maryland. I remember that.
So yeah, I mean, it's not new. It's just a new way they've found to basically formulate the market in the image of comics and coins.
Yes. Oh, it looks like SideQuest Games bought that $7,000. Oh no, they have a $7,000 Contra Force, not the Contra. They have a $7,000 sealed Contra Force. The surging values have surprised even longtime collectors like me, who for years were primarily interested in completing their collections that included arcane titles such as Color a Dinosaur, a game for preschoolers.
I'm glad Color a Dinosaur got a shout out.
I like Jason Bailey for going digging deep into the Color a Dinosaur here.
Well, and I think by picking something like Color a Dinosaur too, it interestingly juxtaposes the two types of collecting that are that now exist. You have the people who are collecting the true oddities and the rarities, trying to complete a set with a game that is legitimately rare to find in any shape or form in the wild, versus this, where people are buying the well-known stuff and it's now becoming popular because it was the first appearance of a well-known character or some weird off variant of something.
Or it's just as sealed because I don't know. In the pantheon of video games, Contra Force does not belong. And
no, it's awful.
Buying
it's
a sealed,
absolutely awful game.
I think it's above average, but we can talk about that later. We'll get a certain NES guidebook there.
We can just let this part of the conversation
Yeah, so we agree to disagree there. I think I only gave it 3 stars. I didn't go nuts. Anyway, but it's not a game that anyone's going to look back on 50 years from now and say, Contra Force, that was a time and period of video games where it really struck gold there. So to me, that's the value of that being sealed. You're really talking about saying it's worth that much because I think it's worth that much, and hopefully other people buy in. You have to sell the importance of games like that.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of this market, why I think it's going to collapse on itself, because, like the fact that you're going to have to sell, this copy of POW sealed, it's worth $700 even. It's like, why? Why is it worth that much? It's not. There's so
because
many.
Pulled out my collecting calculator, and that's what I've decided today.
So let's see. There's someone who is this? Mr. Hamlin said he was ecstatic to spend only $1,000 on a sealed copy of Ninja Turtles, even though it would have cost just a few $100s 2 years ago. I keep telling people that.
Yeah.
Like the sealed values, a lot of stuff was maybe sometimes it was only 2 to 3 times the complete in box value. Sometimes it was like 5 to 10 times the value. But a sealed Super Mario Brothers, not sticker sealed. I saw them at conventions. No one buying them for like $200, $300.
Sure.
A few years ago. And now those will get get it graded, put it up for thousands of dollars, and someone will hopefully buy it. That's what's happening. People are selling out their collections, and they should. If they see this market, sell your collections.
Yeah.
Throw it in. If you're going to get the money, do it. Talks about the Black Box series. Black Box. And it talks about the guide that WATA put out, and the guide that WATA put out really helped spur this on. They put out, these are the different Super Mario Bros.
Really
variants.
Gets into the nitty gritty of all the different variations.
Because now these insane collectors say, okay, I want that specific weird first one. Like, they wouldn't have known before. They wouldn't have cared. There's stuff coming out that I didn't know about the different. I didn't know about the Dr. Wily thing versus Dr. Wright in the first Mega Man. I never hear that. I didn't know about the first Rad Racer having different pictures of the back box. I didn't even hear about that. People had to go and collect that information in order to say, okay, we have to really differentiate these first editions versus the rest. And there's very few games you can do that for.
Right. Black
box games you can do that for, and I guess like some reprints like that become weird, like the Rad Racer stuff and like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and now the Mega Man. There's not going to be hundreds of them. There'll be like, select few where that happens. They talked to Sean from Reserved Investments, Sean Cermick, who writes a column for Antiques and Auction News. It's creating chaos in the market. A lot of these starry-eyed speculators just see dollar signs. Yes. They see it as FOMO, fear of missing out. We know that. When Heritage brokered a $100,000 private sale of a Super Mario Brothers game in February, it called it the only known copy with the sticker still intact. I gave it a 9.4, but the sale raised ethical questions among some collectors who flocked to online forums with complaints of inflated prices. Jason's doing his homework here. I like this article. At least 2 of the 5 buyers are personally invested in WATA. See, I didn't know that. I didn't know there were 5 buyers, and I didn't know 2 of them were invested in WATA. The game's previous owner and a buyer are on WATA's advisory board. That buyer, Jim Halperin, we brought that up, is also a co-chairman and co-founder of Heritage. We brought that up. Dennis Kahn, the president of WATA, said that transparency was paramount and WATA employees were not allowed to have games graded by the company or sell those that were. Several industry observers and parties involved in the Super Mario Brothers sale said it was legitimate, emphasizing a competing 6-figure offer for the game and rebutting claims of a cabal artificially driving up the price. We're not talking about artificial investments here. We're talking about the people that are buying the games being in the inner circle of the people that are grading the games and the same people that are running the auction for the grading games.
Right.
That's the issue being raised. Everyone's self-interests are related.
Yes.
Super related here. They're bleeding over into each other. When the person has an interest in the company who becomes the expert to go on Pawn Stars to talk about how important the game is that they're trying to sell that company graded, we have a huge conflict of interest. That's what people are seeing. It's not crazy to raise these concerns. They are happening.
Right. Your experts and the people who stand to profit the most off of this are one in the same.
Yes. Since the 6-figure sale, Heritage has auctioned 29 copies of Super Mario Brothers for the NES, ranging from $79 to $19,200. And guess what? Heritage is getting 20% of that. I hear more. I hear like they get 20% plus they get a take from they get a buyer's premium and a seller's premium. So it might be more than 20%. It might be like 30% or whatever. They're making bank on this. And obviously WATA's making money from grading these as well. WATA generated to raise $500 million in revenue last year. That's nuts. Okay. So there you have it. I can talk about more, but we want to talk about you want to talk about this quote about. I'll tell you this quote from Mr. Richard Lecce. To me, Super Mario Brothers or The Legend of Zelda are artworks that are far more important than, say, the Mona Lisa. Said Mr. Lecce, who tried unsuccessfully to sell the Super Mario Brothers copy for $1 million in a recent Pawn Stars.
That's some fucking hyperbole. I mean, Zelda and Mario are important, but like to immediately just go and be like
to go
Renaissance
towards
art.
We're going to take it to one of the most famous paintings, if not the most famous painting in existence. That is really, I mean, if they try to sell the Mona Lisa, it will probably go for $1 billion. Like probably.
Sure.
I'm not even, that's not hyperbole. It would go for probably $1 billion, the Mona Lisa.
At least.
This is the problem. When you're talking about these people getting into this market, where people like me and you, we know this is hyperbole. We know that they're doing this to manipulate a market or get more people interested.
Correct.
The people that don't know this are the people that are going to lose their money and lose their shirt. The people that are seeing this, that have money to blow, maybe they've made other investments and other things, and they're like, oh my God, he's right. This could be. He's right. Like, oh, it makes sense. Mario and Link are well known worldwide. That means I should go and spend $200,000 on graded games.
Because, as someone in the article said, you can't spend too much money on it. It's a dangerous combination of enthusiasm and this is, everyone's out there making their money. I'm not trying to sound totally bitter against some of these people, but they're in the business of making money from this. You don't want to take advice from people who stand the most to benefit.
And the people that make the money in these markets are the people that get in first.
Yes, earliest.
And know they have the knowledge and know how these markets work.
Every single person who gets in next is going to be on
less and
footing.
less money. Yes,
it's like similar to, but not quite. But like how pyramid. The earlier you get in,
the more you're going to make.
The more you're going to make.
It's not designed exactly like a pyramid.
Not, but I'm just saying you're on less sure footing than the person who is in before you.
It's a step system.
Yeah.
It's a stair system, not a pyramid system here. But be careful. If you have this money, be careful, because we see this we just saw it with cryptocurrency. A lot of people lost a lot of money on Bitcoin, where it got pumped up to $20,000 and people were buying. Then it drops down, people lose, it drops down to 10, now it's below 7, I think, or whatever. A lot of people lost a lot of money. You know who made the money? The people that know how these markets worth, and they know how to pump it up so people on the outside spend the money. The only way prices increase on these collectibles or on these stocks. .com stocks was a famous one.
Yep.
People lost their everything buying .com stocks, pets.com stocks, and they said at the time these stocks will go up forever. People said that.
Yep.
People said that in the early 2000s. You go back and say, even though people that long time in the stock market said it doesn't make any sense, these companies don't have a track record of making any money. How can you spend $100 on these stocks for these new companies? It doesn't make any sense. Oh, don't get in on it. Get in, Ian. Spend the money. You'll be a millionaire. Come on in, buddy. Join me. And then Ian loses his shirt. He loses his what type of shirt is that?
Health.
He loses his health shirt. Looks like a, is that a band?
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say it looks like a band shirt. Okay. I don't have a huge amount more to add, but this is a great last quote here from Mr. Brock. Comics collector urged caution, saying that people entering the video game market need to do their homework because companies like Heritage and Wata have incentives to drive excitement. The last quote is, it's their job to grease the machine and make sure the machine continues to run because the machine prints money. That's the cool thing about having a business like Heritage or Wata, where if the prices even crash, you already made your money. You're not going to lose money if no one buys these 3 years from now, because you already made your money from the grading and the selling of them and taking the premiums.
Yeah.
The middlemen are always the ones that win in these situations. Always the middlemen that win out because they have no risk in this.
No, they're simply providing a service that is necessary to the hype
both
and
sides,
the hoopla around it.
To the buyer and seller here to get on it. All right, well, there you go. Anything else to add?
Nope.